Say please, Hartford, Trooper Gustafson.
Hi, good morning. I'd like to report, it's going to sound unusual, probably a little crazy, but a criminal conspiracy taking place in the prosecutor's office in
Say please, Hartford, Trooper Gustafson.
Hi, good morning. I'd like to report, it's going to sound unusual, probably a little crazy, but a criminal conspiracy taking place in the prosecutor's office in at the 101 Lafayette, GA 14. I've got in my possession tangible physical evidence of what I can only deduce and conclude is a fictitious, fraudulently procured, backdated warrant that has been combined with digital enhancements next to fresh ink pen. You can turn on and off. I think there's over 24 layers to this fraudulent document that was provided to me outside of the scope of our laws. That warrant was supposed to be provided to me the day I was arrested. It took 5 months for that warrant to be procured, and there was a great effort to obstruct me to gain access to it to begin with. I have, since these 2 false arrests that this is related to and the malicious prosecution therein, have been canvassed by the court and given power of attorney to self-represent as sui juris litigant. And in that process, I have motioned for discovery 3 years ago, multiple times over the course of the last 3 years, up until about 2024. I think mid-2024 was the last time the state wanted to pick up its big, serious mistake in which there are Brady violations and very serious state and federal crimes being committed against me. So today I called the state's attorney's office to try to get a hold of the supervisory authority there. His name is Carl Agello. He's a very difficult man to get a hold of. He did try to return my call this morning, but I'm raising 4 children here and homeschooling. You know, my wife and I, we homeschool. So I missed his call, and I tried returning, and I was met with 3 very rude people who refused to identify themselves. They refused to give me a point of contact to reach them upon outside of the generic call center number. They seem to be part of the obstruction and the criminal obstruction to my documents there. That office was is required by law and through the process of these court proceedings. And my motion that they never objected to and the judge hasn't shot down or anything like that, required to give me discovery. I'm supposed to have a copy of the police reports. I'm supposed to have a copy of any and all potential body camera footage or anything that the state's attorney's office has in their file. I'm supposed to have a copy of that before trial. And I've motioned to go to trial, and that's where they got scared and kind of left things. But I have what I believe is physical evidence of a completely fraudulent and fictitiously created, manufactured, backdated warrant, which was created by attorney Maurelio Amorum. He's like this jack-looking dude. He looks like he's hopped up on steroids all the time. He's always sweating. He wears these suits that he looks like he's bust out of. He tries to be real intimidating in the courtroom, you know. But with that physical evidence that I could provide to you simply through your email, and I can even provide a video of how I'm concluding that this warrant is fake. There's some software that you can download. It's called Adobe Illustrator. And what I can prove in the video that I could send you is when you scan a document into your office scanner, like say you guys have a copy of a warrant, for example, and you wanted to scan that and email it to me today, for example. When you scan that image into your computer off of that paperwork, and save it as a PDF file, it saves as a single layer image because it's just an image that's being photocopied from a scanner and saved as a single PDF file in one layer. That's all it would produce is a single layer PDF file. The PDF file I got from the Connecticut State Police or the prosecutor's office, I can't remember who sent it to me. It's one of the two. It has like 24 layers, more than 24 layers on it. And you can, when you're looking at it, even when you print it out, you can look and see that's not real ink. You can see the difference between digitally applied partial signatures next to actual wet ink on whatever paper that they use to produce this document with. And it's just kind of scary to think that in wake of my false arrest, which is absolutely a conspiracy against my rights. I'm a journalist. I was arrested because I'm a journalist, and I was insisting on asking questions with a female by the name of Jennifer Lawler. She works for Department of Children and Families out in Tallinn. And I've gotten a plethora of phone calls over the years, and even in my personal dealings. Let me just give you an example of why we're suing that lady and why I wanted to ask her questions in my official journalistic capacity. I was arrested for emailing her very politely, very professionally, and asking if she would be available to ask questions. I was arrested for felony threatening, which was crossed off, right? The police just make it up as they go, I guess, and hope, throw shit at the wall, see what sticks kind of thing. The state's attorneys cross that out. But anyway, long story short, Jennifer lost my wife her job as a public school teacher by fraudulently and fictitiously, with no substantiated evidence, with no cause, with no anything, with no due process at all. My wife's name somehow ends up on a child abuse registry, and she gets fired from her job as a teacher in the public school system because of this lunatic who's abusing her office, who's abusing our police system, who's abusing our criminal justice system, and trying to rake me over the coals to conceal her crimes and fraudulent criminal activity inside the office of the Department of Children and Families. My life's been turned upside down because I tried to do the morally and ethically right thing, and I tried to inform and arouse and protect the Connecticut citizens who pay this woman's salary from this criminal activity. And now I look like the asshole, right? And meanwhile, the state is just sitting there. It's already beyond its statute of limitations to prosecute me. It's failed to prosecute. It's committed Brady violations. It's produced a fictitious backdated warrant, and it's actively, as of today, obstructing my access to all of the documents that it was supposed to provide me roughly 3 years ago now. And I need some help in addressing that criminal activity so that the state's attorney's office can no longer obstruct my access to all of that documentation, because I need that to go to federal court. I'm summoning the judge, I'm summoning the prosecutors, I'm summoning the clerks, and they're all going to be prosecuted under federal law for trying to fuck my life over for the last 3 years. There's an officer there at Troop H who's involved in this, who did something very unusual. His name is Marwing Pena. He's got a previous arrest history for beating up his own girlfriend. Somehow he's still a cop here in Connecticut. I don't understand what the brass is thinking, but they've got a violent man who beats up his own spouse, threatening my wife. He's committed an act of felony coercion in this case. That's all on the record in this court case at the Superior Court. And the judge just runs for the hills. That's why this hasn't been brought to trial, and it's just been sitting for over a year. Right? Because I have the evidence, and I have the intelligence, and I have the power of attorney to articulate on the record exactly what's happened here, and I can substantiate every word of it. They're scared, but the people I talk to in the office today, they're trying to insulate themselves. They won't identify themselves. That makes me compelled to believe that they're part of a criminal conspiracy to obstruct that information. That makes them willful, criminally complicit participants in a criminal conspiracy against me to deprive me of my rights and violate my right to due process. This has been going on 3 years. Where's my speedy trial? They're in violation of every single rule in the Connecticut practice book. I've got them on every single technicality. These cases should have been dismissed at the 121-day mark because I immediately motioned to dismiss because these are First Amendment right protected activities. I have a right to hold my public servants accountable and use their publicly accessible email addresses to send them emails telling them how dissatisfied I am with their performance, how grossly inflated I believe their salary is, and whether or not they're going to be around to answer questions about the criminal fraud that they are committing within our public offices that we've entrusted them with and that they've violated. That's not a criminal activity, but that's what I've been arrested for. And Marwing Pena came all the way out of Hartford to arrest me in Columbia, Connecticut. Yeah, that's pretty unusual, you know. And he called my wife and threatened her and said if she didn't, he gave 2 statements to my wife, and I've got this on a recorded phone call I would love to provide to you guys. This is physical evidence going to federal court. He calls my wife and tells her he's got statement A prepared and he's got statement B prepared. And she's going to sign one of those statements, which are both incriminating of me, or she's going to be arrested. Here he says, and this is a quote, "I know you didn't do this, and I know you haven't committed any crimes, but I'm going to arrest you for this if you don't sign one of these statements for me by Tuesday." That's a felony act of coercion. It's a crime, and it's been committed by Trooper Marwing Pena, who's got a criminal history already, and nothing's been done about it. It's not the first time I've mentioned it to a dispatcher on this line, but it is the first time I'm calling alleging that there's a criminal conspiracy in the state's attorney's office, and I'm wondering how we begin to go ahead and get our heads around that and what your department might be able to do for me in acquiring all of the documentation and evidence that the state's attorney's office is criminally obstructing my access to.
What's your last name?
My last name is Riley, Reilly. My first name is Timothy, and my birth date is 6/13/82. I'd also like a criminal investigation begun on Marwing Pena for his felony coercion. And also, when he booked me, he tried to put down less money than I gave him for bond. He documented on the paper, and when I corrected him, he still tried to use the original one that he wrote the wrong dollar amount on. And then I saw him just put the money in his pocket. I don't know if that's standard operating procedure, but it looked awful funny to me. Can you please excuse me or forgive me if I sound frustrated, but I'm a genuine victim here. My wife and I are genuine victims here, and the state has been hurting and harassing my family because I put a great big spotlight on the state and all of its wrongdoings. Mm-hmm. I'm like a targeted gang-stalked victim of the state of Connecticut. It's disgusting. As far as I could tell, the judiciary loves this shit because this is how it creates equity. This is a bona fide, genuine racket. A genuine criminal racket for equity. I'm being victimized by the state so that it can manufacture its own equity and offset its own budget problems and pension liabilities. That's why I'm falsely arrested. That's why I'm falsely accused. That's why they don't actually do their jobs and they think they can get away with it. It's incredible. I need some real help. It would be really helpful if I can get some state troopers down to the state's attorney's office today to get all my documents.
Let me put you on hold real quick.
I need them for federal court.